It was a lazy Sunday afternoon, the kind where the world seemed to slow down just a little. I was at home, curled up on the couch with my phone in hand, absent-mindedly scrolling through my social media feed. The sun was peeking through the curtains, casting a soft glow on everything around me. The moment was peaceful, comfortable. I had just finished a cup of coffee, and I was enjoying the calm. As I flicked through my pictures, I came across an old photo I had taken during a trip with my ex, Adam. It was from a time when things were good between us, before the drama, before everything fell apart. We were in Paris, standing in front of the Eiffel Tower, laughing like we didn't have a care in the world. I remember the warmth of the summer day, the way Adam had that goofy smile on his face, and how the world felt full of possibilities back then. For a moment, I was flooded with memories, some happy, some bittersweet. But I didn't think too much about it. I wasn't trying to reminisce or rekindle any old flames. It was just a picture, a moment frozen in time. I had long moved on from Adam. In fact, I was in a committed relationship with Sam, someone I had grown to love deeply over the past 2 years. Sam and I had something special, or so I thought. We shared inside jokes, dreams for the future, and a sense of trust that seemed unbreakable. But that picture, it was just a picture. So I posted it on Instagram, not thinking much about it. I didn't even write a thoughtful caption. It was a simple line, some good memories. I thought it was harmless, a brief nod to a time that had shaped who I was, but one I had long outgrown. I wasn't hiding anything. It wasn't like I was sending any secret message. It was just a photo of me, from a time I had left behind, in a place I no longer had any connection to. I didn't think about how Sam might react. I didn't think about the possible consequences. It wasn't as if I was still in touch with Adam, he was a part of my past, something I had moved beyond. I figured Sam would understand. He had always been so laid back about the things that didn't matter. I thought he'd see it as just a harmless piece of history, a moment frozen in time that had no bearing on our present. I didn't know that, in that very moment, I was unknowingly planting the seeds of doubt. The phone in my hand buzzed with a notification, and I barely paid attention to it at first. But as the seconds passed, a sinking feeling started to form in my stomach. I glanced down at the screen, and there it was, Sam had seen my post. And I could feel it, the shift. Something had changed. I didn't know it yet, but that one small decision to share a photo from my past was about to unravel everything. I didn't expect it. I really didn't. The moment Sam saw the notification on his phone, everything shifted. It was subtle at first, a slight change in his expression that I didn't immediately recognize. He was sitting across from me, scrolling through his own feed, when the tension in the air became palpable. I had been absent-mindedly chatting about my day, but he wasn't listening. His gaze was fixed on the screen, and then he looked up at me, his face suddenly tight. "Why did you post that?" Sam's voice was low, controlled, but there was an edge to it that I didn't like. He wasn't yelling, but the discomfort was clear in his tone. I blinked, taken aback by the question. "What do you mean?" I replied, trying to keep my voice light, thinking he was joking. "Why that picture?" He gestured toward the phone in my hand, his eyes narrowing. "Why him? Why now?" I felt a wave of confusion hit me. I hadn't even thought about how Sam might react to the post. Why would I? It was just a picture from years ago. I wasn't hiding anything, and Adam was in the past, long gone from my life. "I don't understand," I said, attempting to explain. "It was just a picture, Sam. From a trip we took a few years ago. It doesn't mean anything." I thought it was a nice memory. But Sam wasn't hearing me. His jaw clenched, his body language tightening as he leaned forward. "You're still holding on to that part of your life, aren't you? You're still attached to him, to that time. Why would you post that now, after everything we've been through? What does that say about us?" His words stung, and I felt my stomach twist in discomfort. I hadn't realized that this one simple act could stir up so much emotion. I thought Sam was secure in our relationship, but now I saw that I had underestimated how much something as trivial as a picture could affect him. I tried to calm him down, to explain that it wasn't about Adam, that it was just a snapshot of a time that had shaped me, something that didn't define who I was now. But as I spoke, I could see the frustration building in his eyes. He wasn't listening to reason, he wasn't seeing it the way I did. To him, it felt like I was still holding on to the past, unable to fully let go of it, and that hurt him. "I can't believe you do this," Sam muttered under his breath. "I've always trusted you, but this makes me question everything." I tried to hold back the tears. I didn't want to cry in front of him, especially not over something so small. But it felt like a betrayal. Sam's insecurity, his doubts about me, were suddenly so clear, and it was overwhelming. The conversation ended with no resolution. I tried to salvage the situation, but nothing I said seemed to make a difference. Sam went quiet, withdrawing into himself. He stopped engaging, and I could feel the emotional distance between us grow with every passing minute. I thought things would get better, but they only got worse. Over the next few days, he wouldn't talk to me, wouldn't look at me the same way. The warmth we'd once shared now felt cold and strained. What hurt the most was that, despite my attempts to reassure him, Sam couldn't see that I had no intentions of going back to that part of my life. But it was too late now. The damage had been done. And it was all because of a picture, one small mistake that had turned everything upside down. The days following the post felt like an endless blur. What started as a small misunderstanding quickly spiraled into something far bigger. Sam became distant, his once warm touch now cold whenever he brushed past me. His eyes, which used to hold the comfort of understanding, were now filled with frustration and disappointment. I tried to talk to him, to reason with him, but every attempt seemed to push him further away. The connection we had once shared, so effortlessly, was now replaced with walls. Thick, impenetrable walls. At first, I thought it was just a phase. Maybe he was upset, maybe he just needed time to cool off. But the more I tried to make things right, the more isolated I felt. He stopped answering my calls when I wasn't home, and if I did manage to catch him in person, he was short with me, never really listening, never really engaging. I began to feel like a stranger in my own home. What hurt the most was the silence. The silence between us was suffocating, heavy. It wasn't the kind of silence that comes after a peaceful conversation, but the kind that follows an argument, the kind that signals that something deep and irreparable has shifted. And every time I tried to break it, to ask him what was going on or what I could do to fix things, he just gave me nothing but the cold shoulder. I became hyper-aware of everything I said and did. Every word I spoke, every step I took in his direction felt like a misstep. Was he mad at me for something else? Had I done something wrong without realizing it? The questions were endless, and the answers were nowhere to be found. Sam started blocking me on everything, social media, text messages, even on his phone calls. It was like I was invisible to him, like he didn't even want to acknowledge my existence anymore. I tried not to overthink it. I didn't want to beg for his attention, to force him to talk to me if he wasn't ready. But the isolation was eating me alive. There were moments when I would sit on the couch, phone in hand, staring at the screen, hoping for a message, a sign that things would go back to normal. But nothing came. The silence was deafening. It wasn't just Sam, though. As the days went by, I started noticing a shift in how people around me treated me. Friends who once reached out frequently started pulling back. I saw the way they looked at me, as if they knew something was wrong but didn't want to get involved. It was as if the mere fact that Sam and I weren't speaking had suddenly made me an outsider. My once vibrant social circle seemed to shrink before my eyes. The feeling of being blocked and shut out spread beyond Sam. It crept into every corner of my life. I felt like I was losing touch with everything that once felt familiar. The loneliness started to consume me, until I couldn't even recognize who I was anymore. The person who posted a picture to share a memory was now a shadow of herself, cut off from the world, blocked at every turn. And the worst part? I didn't know how to fix it. It had been nearly a week since Sam had started distancing himself, and I was running out of ways to fix things. My attempts to reach out had only made the situation worse. I felt helpless. One evening, as I sat at the kitchen table, my phone buzzed with a notification. It was a text from Sam. Finally, after days of silence, he was reaching out. I felt a mixture of relief and apprehension as I unlocked my phone. The message was short, blunt: "We need to talk." I hesitated, staring at the words for a few moments. I knew that this conversation was inevitable, and I wasn't sure if I was ready for it. But I had to face it. I had to find out where we stood, or if we even stood anywhere at all. With a deep breath, I replied, "When?" He didn't answer right away, and for a moment, I thought he might back out. But soon enough, another message appeared: "Meet me at the park in an hour." The park had been our place. It was where we'd spent countless afternoons walking hand in hand, laughing about nothing, dreaming about everything. It was where we'd shared our first kiss, where we'd talked about our future. The thought of returning there under these circumstances made my stomach twist. But I knew I had no choice. When I arrived at the park, Sam was already there, sitting on a bench beneath a large oak tree. His back was stiff, his posture tense. His expression was unreadable, his eyes avoiding mine as I approached. I took a deep breath and sat down beside him, keeping a few inches of space between us. For a long moment, neither of us said anything. The silence hung between us, heavier than it had ever been before. Finally, Sam turned to look at me, his face set in a grim expression. "I've been thinking," he began, his voice low, "about that picture you posted." He paused, as if trying to gather his thoughts. "It's not just about the picture, though. It's about everything." I felt my heart race. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice shaky. "You've been holding on to your past," he said, his words coming out more bitter than I expected. "You might think it's nothing, but that picture, of you and Adam, it showed me something I wasn't ready to see." His eyes met mine then, and I could feel the hurt in them. It made me question everything. It made me think that maybe you're still attached to him in ways you shouldn't be. His words stung. I opened my mouth to respond, but he cut me off. "No, let me finish," he said, his tone hard. "You might not realize it, but it felt like a betrayal. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I don't know if I can trust you anymore." My chest tightened. I wasn't sure how to respond. Part of me wanted to tell him everything, that I wasn't still hung up on Adam, that the past was just that, the past. But I could see now that Sam wasn't just upset about a picture. This was bigger. The doubt, the insecurity, it had been building for some time. And now, it had finally spilled over. "I'm sorry," I whispered, feeling tears well up in my eyes. "I never meant to hurt you. But it's not about Adam. It's about me. I don't know how to make you understand that." Sam shook his head, his eyes closing as if he couldn't bear to hear me. "I don't know if I can forgive you for this," he muttered, the words a knife to my heart. I looked down, the weight of his rejection crushing me. We were standing on the edge of something I didn't know how to fix, and for the first time I wondered if I could. I spent the next few days and a daze, replaying the confrontation over and over in my mind. Sam's words echoed in my head, the finality in his voice. I couldn't believe how everything had come crashing down so quickly. But despite the hurt, I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe, just maybe, there was a way forward. I knew I couldn't change the past, but perhaps there was still hope for us if I found the right way to make him understand. After several days of silence, I reached out to Sam again. I knew he was still processing everything, still angry, but I wasn't ready to give up. The message I sent wasn't dramatic, it was simple. "I need to talk to you. Please meet me tomorrow." I wasn't sure if he would respond, but I had to try. To my surprise, he agreed. The next day, we met at the same park, the place where it all began, and where I hoped it might end differently. I was nervous, unsure of how this conversation would unfold, but I knew I had to be honest. As I approached the bench where Sam was sitting, I could see that his posture was slightly less rigid than before, though his face still held the remnants of pain. "I've been thinking a lot about everything," I started, my voice shaky but steady. "And I know I hurt you. I didn't mean to. I didn't think that posting that picture would change everything between us. But I see now that it did." Sam didn't say anything, but his eyes met mine, a flicker of something softer in them. I continued, pouring out everything I had been feeling over the past few days. The picture wasn't about Adam. It was a reminder of a part of my life that was important to me, but I don't live there anymore. I don't want to live in the past. I want to be with you, Sam. I want us to move forward, but I can't do that if you don't trust me. He sat in silence, digesting my words, his gaze never leaving mine. I held my breath, waiting for some kind of response, any kind of response. And then, after what felt like an eternity, Sam finally spoke. "I've been thinking about it too," he said quietly. "And I realize now that part of me was just scared. Scared that maybe you were still holding on to something that wasn't me. But I know that's not true. I've seen you, really seen you, over the past few months, and I know that I'm the one you want. I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know how to handle the fact that you were still connected to that part of your past." I felt my heart swell with relief, but I knew this wasn't over yet. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I never meant to make you feel insecure or doubt us. You're everything to me, Sam. I want this to work." He reached for my hand, his touch warm, grounding. "I want it to work too," he said, squeezing my hand gently. "But I need to trust you. I need to know that I'm the one you want, and not just the idea of me." "I'm here," I said, my voice firm. "I'm right here, and I'm not going anywhere." In that moment, something shifted between us. It wasn't a grand gesture, nor was it a magical solution to all our problems. But it was a start. A genuine, honest start. We weren't perfect, and we still had work to do, but we were willing to fight for each other. As we walked away from the park hand in hand, I couldn't help but feel a sense of hope blooming inside me. Maybe the road ahead wouldn't always be easy, but for the first time in a long while, I felt like we were truly in this together. And that, for me, was enough.